Flight boss, bitch, you know, for sure. You're not listening to the mind of an Terry's Moon. Flight boss, the Archangel URIEL. And Dolo here to carry out God duties and motherfucking responsibilities. And right now we're going to talk about how all life came on Earth. Now, here's the first thing you're going to have to understand before you understand this. Your concept of life and death is wrong. Now, this is what you're actually seeing. And I'm going to compare this to a seed before we get into the video. You see how a seed is in dirt, right? And you think it grows because the sunlight hit it. But that's not actually what's happening. In so many lower realms of realities, you want to say that's what's happening, but I'm telling you this is what's actually happening. That seed is dying, is transforming. That's all death means. Transformation, transforming. You know what I'm saying? So, the seed transforms, it dies, but the actual consciousness of that seed needs another body. But after it experienced being a seed, it starts and once the sunlight hit it, it explodes, it dies, it starts to grasp for all the elements and things of the earth, and it starts to build another body from it. You see what I'm saying? And then once it goes through that transition, it dies again and transform again. Then it's able to die on and transcend to where it actually came from in the astral realm in the first place. So you understand that, right? Now, I need you to understand this too. When you look deep in the water, the deeper you go, the more the fish look like brains. They just look like brains, right? So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Now, let's take it to space. We know space is space, but it's always space within space. So say there's a center space and space spreads out, right? No matter how small or big, there's going to be relativity going on just based upon universal law, because this piece of the space is going to see the center space different than this piece of the space. So this is why you get oppositions and things of that nature, right? So that action right there is what actually creates consciousness. But this is when consciousness is baby-like. So since we know space is within space and they have different perspectives to the center space that they was just at, now we have space groups as the travel goes on, as the spreading out goes on. We have space groups. You could call it spirit groups. And then you have your Pacific space and relativity and what you relative to between the space group you're traveling with. So this is how you develop your first frequency vibrations and what you're going to be vibrating with. If you're on the left side of another space, that's bigger than if you're on the right side of, you see what I'm saying? Now, as this travel, it sources in space because there's spaces that has been there before you got there. So they have developed already. So this is what you have, this is what you would call elements coming together and creating stars and things of that nature. So we know stars is rotations of a totality of a being, but this is another video. Right now we need to stay specifically and clear because I need my Nobel Peace Prize. So when you look at space and your space travel, you know what you are is a shapeless, formless, odorless, non-flammable gas. And your piece of that whole order is your own formless, shapeless, odorless gas, which becomes eventually your own conscious. Now, when you go into one of these sources, one of these locations in space with your space group, right, and go through one of these sources, these lights, these suns, these rotations, these beams, right, you go into that rotation through that light. Now, these lights already been there, so they already became their own source. So they're going to be vibrating from a positive or negative energy immensely. And each color carries spectrums. So based upon your frequency vibration of your odorless, shapeless, formless, non-flammable gas, when you go into this light, depending on if you was vibrating on a positive end, that's going to let you know if you inhabit a male representation of that, or if you inhabit the negative side, that's going to let you know if you inhabit the female, before it's even male and female the way you look at it. right? And then the color spectrum you inhabit is going to let you know what experience you're going to play out within this being. Now, the rotation within this rotation is shaping, forming you as it. But you, as being a formless, shapeless, odorless, non-flammable gas, here, when you come here, you ride the light into its rotation. So that means you ride the light into one of its orbits, right? So you ride the light into one of these planets that the light is shining on in its rotation from the sun. And when you go in there, that's a realm of reality. So since it's been there before you, it's already accumulated of elements mixed together. So as you transform as a gas going in there, you have to start grasping for life. So you constantly dying. You think life is living. No, life is actually dying, transforming. So this is what you're constantly doing. So it start off as a baby conscious, subconscious. Subconsciously, you're grasping for the elements of that realm of reality you in, of the existence you in, and you start building the body. So, like building your spaceship to inhabit your conscious, your odorless gas. So your odorless gas can survive through this space travel that you're going through. You see what I'm saying? And once you do that, here's where evolution starts. You start grasping. Then you start developing tissue and fat around yourself. That's your first body. Boom. You start building around that. Boom. You start building yourself till you end up looking like a spine or snake-like. Boom. Like a little walking slithering brain or something like that. Boom. You start to, and then you develop as what you inhabit based upon when you roll that sunlight, based upon the location of sunlight that you shot on, those are going to be the elements and germs that you use to make yourself as a body. This is how you know, and scientists know, what elements your body is made of. Duh. Now, once you start developing your spaceship, years and years and years and years and years go by. You start to learn to be consciously aware of it because you're consciously aware of it every day. You start to learn how to reproduce because you was both. So now you start to learn how to reproduce with the opposite to create. Then eventually you learn how to reproduce to yourself again. Then once you ascend that level, you start to learn how to reproduce, and then you start to learn how to not have to reproduce at all. But that's going to other dimensions. But let's stay on point. So you're developing a brain. Then you start to develop your whole body. But the body that you develop takes shape and form of the rotation you in, of that kind of, the way that body looks. You see what I'm saying? And then this explains why you have a wide range of different species and why you always have new species. You see what I'm saying? This explains why you always have new species. Because some cosmic gases came here before others and was able to develop certain brains that was higher in consciousness than the other ones based upon where the location of this solar system is at in general that you came into. You see what I'm saying? A lot of new species that's just now, if you go deep in the water, a lot of species that just came here, the same way how I explained it now, and they deep in the water, they're going to be smarter when they be here thousands and thousands of years. They're going to be way smarter than you, because the body that they're going to develop is going to be consistent of elements of this solar system being in the age of Aquarius and all kind of shit. You get what I'm saying? So your consciousness is shapeless, formless, odorless, colorless, non-flammable gas. But when it comes into realms of realities, it has to grasp the elements from its own friction. So this is why you're constantly transforming. You're constantly going through death. So the smaller you was, the death was way faster. Just like you looking at a seed growing. You was constantly when you first came here as a gas, boom, that was death. That was transformation. Then you start grasping for the elements. Now you got a little bit a look around you. You know what I'm saying? Now you start to develop around that tissue and all that, just around that, when really you just becoming sperm in some type of way. And another being, but that's another video. We want to talk about you right now. And what you're consciously aware of because of the dimension you in. You see what I'm saying? And then this is why you can't go back and find a single denominator. This is why you have many different races and you can't understand who was here first, because we all came here at the same time with all the animals and everything. Well, different time frames, but we came in the same kind of way. So we all developed differently based upon location and what kind of elements you had to grasp towards to survive. This is why all you know is to survive. This is why all you know is to transform. You see what I'm saying? Do you get what I'm saying? What I just said, you see that every day with new species and with growth. You see that every day. You don't see things living. You see things constantly transforming. You see things constantly dying and grasping to live. So it's taken from the world and the elements in order to survive here. And when you get elevated enough, you know how long you've been here. So as a human, you're doing that on a higher scale. You're taking more of the elements and creating more out of it. This is why you got buildings, pyramids, and things to use. We take the trees and make toilet paper out of it, make paper out of these things, whatever like that. Then we're going to evolve and ascend to the things that created that shit, to the stars. But it's all genuinely star seeds, but that's another video. You see what I'm saying? So everybody has the wrong concept because of their preset position when they came here. Life is death is wrong. The way you look at colors is wrong. The way you look at the sun is wrong. The way you look at the planets is wrong. The way you look at what you think is going on is wrong. So all your perceptions is wrong. And all your imaginations and your creations and manifestations in your life is wrong. See what I'm saying? It's like, boss, bitch, goddamn air. I need my Nobel, fucking peace prize.